Have you ever noticed it? You're not lifting anything heavy. You didn't run a mile. You're just sitting there, maybe scrolling your phone, maybe lying in bed, when suddenly your body feels like it's carrying bricks. Your back tightens, your neck stiffens, your legs ache as if you've walked for hours when you haven't moved at all. And in that moment, you start wondering, what's wrong with me? Doctors can't always explain it, rest doesn't always fix it, and painkillers only dull it for a while before it returns. But here's the possibility no one ever told you. What if these aches aren't a sign that something is broken, but a sign that something is waking up? We've been conditioned to think of ourselves as only flesh and bone, muscles, joints, nerves, cells. But you're more than that. You're an energetic being. And energy moves, it shifts, it clears. Sometimes it hurts. Think about it. Stress doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your shoulders. Anxiety doesn't only exist in your thoughts, it churns in your stomach. Old grief doesn't disappear just because you ignored it, it lodges in your chest. When you begin a spiritual awakening, when your soul starts to rise into more awareness, all those hidden energies surface. And when they rise, they don't politely knock. They ache, they pull, they demand to be noticed. This is why so many people report body pains during awakening. A stiff back can feel like the weight of old responsibilities finally surfacing. Tired legs can echo the fear of moving forward. Heavy shoulders can reveal decades of carrying unspoken burdens. Your body is not betraying you. It's speaking for you. It's showing you what your mind has buried. At first, this can feel terrifying. You ask yourself, am I sick? Am I getting weaker? Am I falling apart? But what if the opposite is true? What if these sensations mean you're healing, not on the surface, but at the deepest level, the level where energy meets flesh, where emotions live in the muscles, where your spirit insists it's time to let go? And here's the key. Once you begin to see these aches not as random pain, but as purposeful signals, the fear begins to loosen. You start listening. You start asking, what is my body trying to tell me? That question is where real awakening begins, and it's where we'll go next. The moment you start asking, what is my body trying to tell me, everything changes. Instead of fighting the ache or numbing it, you begin to treat it as a messenger. And this shift is crucial, because in awakening, nothing is random. The pain that shows up without warning often carries a meaning you've ignored for years. Your body becomes the stage where your spirit plays out the hidden truths. Think of it this way. Every unresolved emotion, every buried trauma, every belief you've carried but never questioned leaves an imprint. You may have told yourself you've moved on from the heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment, but your body remembers. That memory doesn't sit neatly in your brain. It lodges itself in muscle, in tissue, in the nervous system. This is why a sudden wave of tension can rise in your shoulders when you think of an old argument, or why your stomach knots when you consider stepping into the unknown. The body records what the mind tries to outrun. During spiritual awakening, this record begins to play back. But it doesn't speak in words, it speaks in sensation. A throbbing back may be your soul urging you to stop carrying what isn't yours. Restless legs may echo the part of you that fears moving forward in life. A heavy chest can reveal grief you never fully allowed yourself to feel. And if you pay attention, you'll notice these aches don't just appear at random. They often come after moments of emotional intensity, after a deep cry, after a difficult conversation, after an insight that shifts how you see yourself. Your mind lets go, and your body follows. But in that release, there can be soreness. It's important to remember, this doesn't mean you're broken. It means your energy is recalibrating. Awakening recalibrates your nervous system, your perception, even your breath. And recalibration rarely feels smooth. Just like exercising new muscles leaves you sore before you feel stronger, releasing old emotions can leave the body aching before you feel lighter. This is why spiritual growth is often described as both painful and liberating. Because pain isn't just a signal of damage, it's often a signal of transformation. But here's the challenge. Most of us were never taught to see it this way. We were told to push through, to suppress, to medicate, to keep busy. We live in a culture that honors productivity more than presence, distraction more than depth. So when awakening starts and the body begins to ache, most people panic. They run to old habits for comfort. They try to silence the message instead of hearing it. Yet the ache only grows louder when ignored. Which brings us to the deeper truth. Your body will not stop speaking until you finally listen. And when you do, when you choose to listen instead of resist, you open the door to a level of healing most people never reach. So how do you actually listen to your body when it speaks through pain? It begins with slowing down. That sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things for a busy, overstimulated mind to do. When your back suddenly stiffens or your chest feels heavy, your first impulse is to get rid of it. You reach for painkillers, distractions, or excuses. But awakening asks you to do the opposite, to pause, breathe, and get curious. Imagine placing your hand gently over the area that aches and asking, "If you could speak, what would you tell me?" Don't force an answer. Don't overthink it. Just notice what arises. Maybe a memory flashes in your mind. Maybe an emotion you thought you buried comes to the surface. Maybe it's just a whisper. Slow down. Rest. Let go. This is the language of the body. Subtle, intuitive, sometimes uncomfortable, but always honest. The body doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't care about appearances or social masks. If your shoulders are tight, it's because they've carried too much. If your throat feels constricted, it's because truth has been trapped there. If your stomach churns, it's because something in your life feels undigestible. Each sensation is a messenger, pointing you toward the parts of yourself that are still waiting to be seen and loved. This is where awakening turns physical. You're no longer just thinking about growth or reading about healing. You're feeling it in your bones, your muscles, your skin. That's why the aches can feel so strange, so unexplainable. It's not because your body is betraying you. It's because it's working with you, purging what no longer belongs. And this process can feel like waves. Some days the energy flows freely and you feel light. Other days, old grief resurfaces and you feel like you've been carrying invisible weights. But don't mistake these waves for setbacks. They're not proof that you're failing. They're proof that you're transforming. Think of it like the tide. When the water pulls back, it's not gone forever. It's gathering strength to return. In the same way, when pain surfaces, it's not punishment. It's energy leaving. It's your system recalibrating. It's the old story loosening its grip so the new can take root. This doesn't mean you won't feel frustrated. Of course you will. But the shift comes when you realize frustration itself is part of the process. Because every time you choose curiosity over resistance, presence over panic, you're breaking the cycle of avoidance that's kept you stuck for years. That's how the body becomes your ally. And once you begin to treat it that way, you'll see something profound. The aches aren't obstacles. They're doorways. And if you're willing to walk through them, what lies on the other side is freedom. One of the most overlooked truths on the awakening path is that pain has purpose. Most of us were raised to believe pain is an enemy, something to fight, numb, or silence as quickly as possible. But in spiritual awakening, pain often becomes the very bridge to clarity. Think about it. How many times has real change in your life been sparked by comfort? Rarely. Growth usually comes when discomfort forces you to pay attention. These random aches and stiffness are no different. They're signals, not sentences. They point to areas of your life where energy is stuck, where old patterns are still clinging to your body like ghosts. That's why ignoring them never works for long. You might distract yourself for a day, but the ache returns until you finally stop running and listen. And when you listen, you discover that the pain was never trying to harm you, it was trying to guide you. Take stress, for example. You can tell yourself you've moved on from a situation, but if your jaw still clenches every time you think of it, the body hasn't moved on. If your chest still tightens when you remember a loss, the body hasn't finished grieving. This is why awakening is such an embodied process. It doesn't let you live only in your head anymore. It demands integration, mind, heart, and body all together. But here's where most people struggle. We expect release to feel like bliss right away. We think if something is spiritual, it should feel light and easy. Yet the truth is, release often feels heavy before it feels light. Just like clearing out a closet makes a bigger mess before it creates order, emotional release often stirs up the body before peace arrives. That's not failure, it's evidence that healing is in motion. Your nervous system is relearning safety. Your cells are recalibrating. Your energy field is rearranging itself. And yes, that can feel chaotic. Some days you'll wake up sore for no reason. Some nights you'll toss and turn as if your body is wrestling something invisible. But if you surrender to the process, if you allow the waves to move through you, the storm eventually clears. And what's left isn't just a stronger body, it's a freer soul. So the next time pain arrives uninvited, don't rush to label it bad. Ask instead, what is this trying to show me? What am I releasing right now? Because every ache, every spasm, every heaviness might just be the language of transformation, your body's way of carrying your awakening forward. There's another layer to this that most people miss. The body speaks in metaphors. It doesn't use words, it uses sensation. Back pain, for instance, doesn't always come from posture or strain. Spiritually, the back is what supports you, so chronic tension there often points to the weight of responsibilities you've been carrying alone. A stiff neck can symbolize inflexibility, a refusal to see another perspective. Tight shoulders often hold years of holding it all together for everyone else. The body carries what the heart and mind refuse to release. If your throat feels blocked, ask yourself, what truth have I silenced? If your stomach churns, consider what truth you've struggled to digest. If your legs ache, are you afraid of moving forward into the unknown? These questions aren't meant to replace medical care, but they do reveal that physical pain is often the final messenger of emotional pain that's been ignored for too long. Awakening magnifies this connection. You're no longer numb to subtle signals. You become sensitive, sometimes painfully so. A crowded room can feel suffocating, a careless comment can sting for days, and unresolved memories may echo in your body like fresh wounds. At first, this sensitivity feels like a curse. You might wonder, why do I feel everything so deeply now? But over time, you realize it's a gift, because sensitivity is awareness, and awareness is the doorway to healing. When aches come, don't just medicate them away. Pause. Place your hand where it hurts. Breathe into that space. Ask the pain to speak. Sometimes what arises won't make logical sense. A memory might surface. A wave of emotion might pour out. You might cry without knowing why. That's okay. In fact, that's the point. The body is releasing what the mind has suppressed. And here's the paradox. The very aches you want to escape are the proof you're evolving. They're the evidence that your system refuses to carry old burdens into the next chapter of your life. Every twinge is your soul saying, you're not meant to stay the same. So instead of resisting, lean in. Trust that your body is wiser than you've been taught to believe. Because every sensation has meaning, and every ache is a messenger, if you're willing to listen. Now, here's where many people get tripped up. When the body begins to ache during awakening, the natural instinct is to fight it, to label it as a problem, to treat it as an enemy. You think, something's wrong with me, I need to get rid of this. But what if the pain isn't something to get rid of? What if it's something to walk through? Think about exercise. The first time you train muscles that have been inactive, they burn, they ache. Not because you're broken, but because strength is being built. Awakening works the same way. Those aches, those sudden waves of fatigue, aren't signals of failure. They're signs of expansion. Your body is stretching into a new way of being. And like any stretch, it comes with discomfort before it comes with ease. This is why resistance only makes it harder. The more you clench against the pain, the heavier it feels. The more you try to numb it, the longer it lingers. But when you soften into it, when you breathe into the sore spots, when you allow yourself to cry, when you sit quietly instead of running from the tension, the pain begins to shift. Not instantly, not magically, but gradually, like ice melting into water. And here's something most people don't realize. Pain during awakening is often cyclical. It comes in waves. Some days you'll feel light, free, like you finally crossed the threshold. Then suddenly the heaviness returns. That doesn't mean you've regressed. It means another layer is surfacing. Healing isn't linear. It's more like peeling back the rings of a tree. Each ache reveals another story, another belief, another piece of your past that's ready to be seen and released. So instead of asking, when will this stop? Start asking, what is this teaching me? That single shift changes everything, because then the pain is no longer meaningless suffering. It becomes sacred work, the work of becoming whole again. And as you continue to surrender to this process, something profound begins to happen. The aches don't just release, they transform. What once felt like heaviness becomes clarity. What once felt like exhaustion becomes presence. The same body that once felt like a burden starts to feel like a trusted ally guiding you home. So here's the truth you need to remember. These aches are not random punishments. They are not flaws in your system. They are messages, sacred signals that your body is finally speaking the language of your soul. Every twinge, every stiffness, every wave of exhaustion is a doorway. Behind it lies the part of you that's been waiting to be acknowledged, released, and set free. Think of it this way. Your body is like a journal you've been writing in for years without realizing it. Every unspoken word, every unprocessed grief, every suppressed truth has left its mark. Awakening is the moment the pages begin to turn back. And yes, reading them can hurt. But if you're brave enough to read, to feel, to stay present, the story doesn't end with pain. It ends with freedom. That's why so many who make it through this stage describe the aches differently afterward. They say, my back pain lifted the moment I forgave myself. Or, my chest stopped hurting when I finally spoke the truth. Or, my body feels lighter now that I've let go of what was never mine to carry. The pain wasn't permanent. It was a bridge. And the other side of that bridge is the wholeness you've been searching for. Now, I want to leave you with a challenge. The next time your body aches for no obvious reason, don't rush to silence it. Don't dismiss it as random. Pause. Place your hand where it hurts. Take a breath. Ask, what are you trying to show me? Then listen, not with your mind, but with your presence. You might not get words. You might feel an emotion, a memory, or simply a wave of relief. Whatever arises, trust it. That's your body and soul finally working together instead of against each other. Because the real question isn't, how do I get rid of this pain? The real question is, what part of me is awakening through this pain? And if you can hold that perspective, you'll discover something incredible. The ache doesn't break you. It makes you. So if this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. And if you're ready to go deeper into this journey of awakening, make sure you subscribe. Because what we're uncovering together isn't just information, it's transformation. And I promise, you don't have to walk through it alone.